All righty, welcome in. It is halftime here at Las Vegas Bowl here at 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Nick Sainer, Jake Sorensen with you as Nebraska trails 24-14 at the break. A game that started out really, really well for the Huskers. They dominated on the ground game. Jake, you and I were talking up here that Nebraska, Makai Nelson was doing kind of everything they wanted to do offensively on the ground. They did a really nice job against a bad rushing defense that Utah has. But as the first half went on, it got tougher and tougher for Nebraska just to move the football at all. And in their last, not counting the last play from scrimmage, but in their previous 3 drives, 9 plays, 9 total yards, averaging just 1 yard per play. It's not going to cut it against the Utah team that's doing whatever they want on offense.
Exactly. The first 2 drives, Nebraska 8 plays, 82 yards, touchdown. They ran the ball well.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was
Yeah. Well, there was 2 crippling scores.
The touchdown, though,
Yes.
and then that was 3rd and 9.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the touchdown before that for Utah, where they obviously settled for a field goal previously on the drive before, but the one before that, it was 3rd and 20 after the intentional grounding penalty on the Utah quarterback there. And then what does Nebraska do? Nebraska calls a timeout, and then after the timeout, they give up a touchdown pass on 3rd and goal from the 20. Those are situations. I realized, and I tweeted this out just in the late stages of the second quarter, I realized Rob Orich is going to be walking into quite a tall task next year. I think as the offense, we had to comment on the YouTube stream here, and feel free to bring him in. Michael brought in so Dana Holgorsen can walk back to Nebraska. There is so much more wrong with this team. Nebraska's not losing this game because their ineptitude on offense. They're losing it because of just horrible defensive play. No. Yeah. No.
Don't forget, they're without their top tackles. Their left and right tackle for first round defensive picks.
Yeah.
Second tackle. They ran the ball well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, when you talk about Nebraska football, this situation right now, 24-14, Nebraska trails. Before we continue to dive into this, I want to thank all of our sponsors for allowing us to be out here and being the reason why we are out here. MWR Building and Fence, Advanced Medical Imaging, Ben Bleicher of Professional Realty Group and Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, and last but certainly not least, Amigos Kings Classic. Jake, we apologize for some audio stuff. We can see you guys. I'll hand Jake my AirPod here in just a second to give you kind of the rundown of what we were talking about. But if you're just now joining us, just now tuning in, whether it's on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it may be, hopefully you can hear us. Obviously, there's announcements and bands going on behind us. But basically what we're kind of just talking about is Rob Orich is going to have to be walking into a lot of work to do next year. And he's here tonight. He's here. He walked into the stadium before pregame. He has not been practicing with the team, but he's probably seeing some things in some areas where they're going to need to assess Friday as the transfer portal opens up. But then also they just have to figure out some sort of discipline change defensively. I will say this, and this is not to sound like a personal attack, Jake, but I still go back to when Nebraska decided to bring in Phil Snow and Dana Holgorsen. Now, we understood at that time why they brought in Dana Holgorsen, because Marcus Satterfield struggled to get any rhythm going on offense. But we forget, it wasn't like Tony White's defense at that time was bad. But now, as ever since that moment that Phil Snow was brought in, there's been something different. There's been something off with the defense. It just hasn't been smooth ever since that point. Now, last year they had a nice little situation, but more times than not, I mean, it just feels like we know Phil Snow's the defensive coordinator, but right now it could not look any worse for Nebraska defensively.
Yeah, and we talked about Nebraska's had a lack of a pass rush most of the season. It's showing up once again. They got to Dampier a couple times, but he's most times had time to do whatever he wants, and that's what's causing problems of him getting off schedule. I mean, he's a guy that's a running quarterback, and when he gets off schedule, that's when the big plays explode for Utah. And so second half, I don't know what you'd change at halftime, because guess what? You cannot fix the fact that he's a running quarterback and you don't have a great rusher to go get him. So what can you do to avoid these third down breakdowns? I don't know, but you're right. Rob Orange has a lot to work with this offseason to fix this, and you brought him in, hitting the big bucks to do so. So I don't think you and I have the answer right now. That's why we're not doing that job. That's why he's the one doing it. But certainly there's some positives, but it certainly it needs a lot of work. And once again, we are sponsored by Amigos Kings Classic Advanced Medical Imaging, Ben Bleicher, PRG, Berkshire Hathaway, Ambassador Real Estate, and MWR Building and Furniture. Scoring at halftime: Utah 24, Nebraska 14. Utah gets the ball to start off the second half, which is, again, important to get a stop. They've had to stop for a while. Nebraska has not.
All right, there we go. You guys should be able to hear us maybe a little bit worse now as we disconnected, but we should be able to both hear both Jake and myself, so we don't have to keep switching the AirPod back and forth. I mean, once again, Nebraska down 24-14 at the break. Third down, we had it on Stetson on the Facebook stream, says third down is killing the defense. If you're just now joining the stream or just now tuning in and missed it earlier, I mean, I look back at there were two monumental moments in that first half for this defense, and they both came on third down. And in all honesty, the most important one for me was the 3rd and 20 when you called your own timeout and you still came out and looked you were unable to get to the quarterback. You felt like it's still shocking to me that you feel like you can get to the quarterback with 3 down linemen when all season long you have not been able to. They put 4 down linemen in that situation, and Dampier had all day to throw, and he was having a picnic back there. And so it's a situation where Nebraska has to figure out a way to where I think it's partially players. I think it's partially coaching. Nebraska's made some changes defensively on the staff, and now you look at Friday. People might call us Debbie Downers. Nebraska's not out of this game, but things are going to get real uncomfortable here over the next couple of months and even over the next season. If Nebraska ends up looking up at the scoreboard here in 10 minutes, Jake, and as Utah receives the second half kickoff, they go down and score, which seems to be the rhythm of the game and the way that this game is kind of flowing, it could get real uncomfortable. We said it this morning on the show that the last few weeks of the regular season were very uncomfortable, very awkward, and now it looks like nothing has ever changed in the last month.
I think too, how much what Dylan changes, I don't know if he does. Defensively, he can't fix the defense, and offensively, I'm not sure he fixes the issues they have right now, because it was a great start, but at halftime, Latif is 7 for 11, 80 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no picks. He's not hitting anything deep at all. It's all crossers and short stuff, but Nebraska has to open up the offense. But Utah figured out, hey, if you stop the run, we stop Nebraska. So at some point, you have to be more scary, passing the ball. Nebraska is not there right now. And young quarterback, still probably not 100% healthy on the team, and also has a ways to go as a passer. But that's why this in totality is uncomfortable. Defensive is a problem. Offensive, you got issues as well.
I think, honestly, then there's the other part is, here's the thing, Husker fans. Nebraska's facing a brand new head coach tonight.
that's the other part. And you feel like Nebraska, once again, through a quarter or through a half of football, is getting outcoached. They're getting outplayed. They look like they've been out-prepared. And this is the one thing that I said, and we talked about this morning. You talked about it with Bill and Sip. I talked about it with AD often, about you cannot continue to show up and look like you were unprepared to play. And I mean unprepared throughout the first 2 quarters or 4 quarters. Nebraska was fine for the first 2 drives. A football game's a hell of a lot longer than just the first 2 drives. And so it's a situation where I think if you're Nebraska, you got to do some real soul searching. And I think it starts here in quarter number 3. And once again, not trying to be such a negative Nelly here, but you look at the scoreboard and it's 24-14. Nebraska defers to start the second half, and you feel like you can't stop a nosebleed on defense. And there's a lot of Utah fans in this building. There's a lot of Husker fans in this building, and it really feels like the Husker fans are going to be the ones that go home sad.
Well, I want to repeat the fact that Utah entered this game as the number 2 rushing offense in the country, and they're down the top 2 of the top 4 offensive tackles in the country, and they're on pace right now, Nick, for 600 yards of offense and 48 points. That was the fear coming into this game: is can you keep up with them? Because you probably can't stop them, which has been the case, and you were keeping up. So at some point, you got to get a turnover. We always say that turnovers obviously change the game, or a special team score in some capacity, but until it happens, it doesn't look great for Nebraska's second half. But
we'll hope it changes. Once again, thanks to our friends, Amigos King Classic, Advanced Medical Imaging, Ben Bleicher of PRG, Berkshire Hathaway, Ambassador Real Estate, and MWR Building and Fence. We have about 5.5 minutes left on the game clock here until the third quarter will start. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. This has been just a little bit of a halftime thought from Jake and myself. We appreciate you guys once again for staying tuned through all of our bowl coverage. Las Vegas Bowl, this place is remarkable. It is such a fun place to watch a game. It's a great venue, and it's relatively new, but for the most part, man, you wish Nebraska was the scoreboard was a little bit flipped, and Nebraska was up by double digits at the half instead of the Utah Utes, but it is the way it is. Make sure you stay tuned. We'll have more coverage from Las Vegas when the game is over, but also Jay Foreman, Austin Norman on the Jay Foreman post-game show. Following the final whistle, the final as the clock hits 0, they'll be on the Jay Foreman postgame show back in our 93.7 The Ticket Studios. Make sure you tune in to them, and they'll take you through all the rants, all the explanation that needs to be had. Jake, any final words?
Game's not over yet. Doesn't look great. Down 10. You're not down 17. You're not down 24. You're down 10 points. So if you get a stop and you score, we're right back in this thing.
It starts with sorry, Jake. It starts with a stop on defense, but then also offense. It's not to act like it's only the defense's issue right now. The offense, as Jake alluded to earlier, and I kind of mentioned earlier as well. The last 3 drives, 9 total yards for the Huskers. They have not gotten past the 30-yard line of Nebraska in the last 3 drives, and one of those drives had 8 yards that eventually stalled anyway. So you had one drive for 1 yard, one drive for 0 yards, and the other for 8 yards on 3 consecutive possessions. Not going to get the job done against anybody, but especially a really good 10-win Utah Ute team. Nebraska's capable of winning, Jake. They just got to do some things differently.
They can play defensively, get TJ Lateef maybe running a little bit, and get back to what worked. Mekhi Nelson ran the ball well. Get those guys back going, and never know what happens.
That'll do it for us. Nick Sainer, Jake Sorensen. We'll talk to you soon from Las Vegas.